Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Yasser Ahmed. So we're now going to be looking at second part of chapter 2, input and output devices from the ICT IGCSE course. And 2.2 is direct data entry and associated devices. So these devices will enter data quickly into your computer system compared to using manual methods like a keyboard to enter data. So let's look at some of these examples here. So the first one we're going to be looking at is the use of the magnetic strip reader to read data found on magnetic strips on the back of the cards. The most obvious example of this use is to gain access to a hotel room. So you may need to swipe the card into the reader and it will either give you access or not give you access. Sometimes as well, maybe you're at the arcades and you're using the machines. You can top up your magnetic card with credit, and then every time you play a game, go to an arcade machine, you can swipe it, and the credit will be reduced. Okay. Another example is maybe a gift voucher. You'll have a starting amount at the start, and every time you buy something, the card will be swiped, and then the amount will be reduced. Um, it used to be used in bank cards. So before we had chip and pin, which we'll be coming to in a moment, um, the magnetic strip would be scanned in. Okay, then all of the details from the card would be inputted into the system. So the purpose of this is to take the details of the card and place that information into the computer system. Okay. Now the advantage of using magnetic strip readers is fast data entry compared to keyboard. There's no chance of making a human error. Obviously, with keyboard, you might make a typing mistake. It's not affected by water and robust if dropped and can be easily updated. However, stripe could become the strip could become unreadable, scratched if it's been used so many times. Does not work from distance, can be easily lost or misplaced. And sometimes, if you've had a card in your pocket next to your mobile phones, it may stop working. So, for example, in the past, I've been to hotels where you're trying to get into your room and you can't because the card's not responding. So, you'd have to go to the reception for it to be reprogrammed so you can gain access to your room again. So this did used to be the method of payment before we get to chip and pin. So what would happen was you would, thinking maybe 20 years ago when I was working in shops whilst at university or college, so I'm showing my age now, you swipe in the card, okay, so then details would be inputted into the shop's computer, and then to validate the card was yours, you basically sign on the receipt, and then the cashier would check the receipt, their signature on the receipt to the signature on the back of the card to validate the card. And obviously, the problem with this was it could easily be forged. A signature, you could find a card on the floor, you can see the signature on the back of the card, and you could easily forge it onto a receipt. So it wasn't really a secure method. So that's how we used to use the magnetic strip for payments beforehand, before we moved on to using chip and pin readers. So chip and pin readers are used at the point of sale to make a secure payment using a debit or credit card. So instead of swiping a card, the card is placed in, so the card will have a chip into the chip and pin reader. Okay, and you can make payments at shops and restaurants by simply inserting into the chip and pin reader and typing normally a 4 to 6 digit pin. The advantage of this is it's a secure method of payment compared to swiping or the contactless, which we'll come to. And a chip is less likely to be damaged compared to a magnetic swipe or strip. However, if you are entering your PIN, the PIN could be read by someone watching or using mirrors or shoulder surfing. Fraudulent machines can copy card details as well. So obviously this is a lot more secure than just swiping in your card and writing a signature on a receipt. A 4-digit PIN is required. So if someone was to find your card, they can't simply use it in a shop without knowing a 4-digit PIN. However, contactless cards using RFID technology, readers are used by customers to pay for products at the POS without the need. So let me say that again. Contactless cards are used by customers to pay for products at the POS without the need to enter a PIN using RFID technology. transactions are normally restricted to a small amount. So now there's no authentication. So if you have like this wireless icon in your or picture on your card, it will be using this RFID technology. Okay, radio frequency identification, if you want to know what that is. And simply to make the payment, you tap the card. So the payment terminal picks up a signal from the chip to process and complete the transaction when the card is within a few centimeters from the distance of the machine. So the advantage is because you're not having to type in a PIN, there's no need to remember a PIN. Simply because we're tapping and we're not having to type, it's going to be a quicker transaction. So less time spent at the POS, less time queuing. So you obviously don't need to use a PIN. And also the advantage of that is there's no one there looking at you whilst you're entering your PIN. And the transaction data is all encrypted. However, the disadvantage is it's less secure than a chip and PIN method. Anyone can use your card if lost. It is easier for thieves to copy the details of the card. They can just come close to you and scan in the details. And only smaller payments can be made. So here's a typical exam question. Many banks now use contactless bank cards now use contactless technology. Describe the advantage and disadvantage of using these cards rather than the cards that use chip and PIN. So using contactless technology will ensure the transaction is quicker and less wear on the cards because we're not having to swipe it or insert it as is not inserted into a device. Also, as no PIN is required, no one will be able to shoulder surf to get your PIN. However, if the card is lost, it could be used by anyone as a PIN is not required. In addition, you may have a limit on spending on a card if you are tapping and using a contactless method. Okay, so we did look at radio frequency identification for the contactless method. RFID reads information stored on tags. So you may have noticed if you go to shops, you purchase some items like a CD or DVD or something like that, you might see a sticker like this. So it's a small silicon chip that can be placed on the sticker. So using radio waves, the RFID tags can be read from distance. So how does it work? Okay, so this can be placed on items of stock. So when items of stock come in, we can scan and automatically that data will go into the computer system. So we can say, in this box, we have X amount of black socks and white t-shirts and so on. So there's no need to count anything manually. You can track movement of animals or livestock or people. I'm not sure if it's used for people. I'm not sure, but of animals. Okay. So from a distance, we can scan, and if this tag is on the animal, we can automatically detect how many animals we have and where they've been. Your luggage at the airports. So once you're checking in your luggage, they may stick a little tag onto your suitcases, and then your suitcases can be scanned from a distance to ensure nothing is lost and all of the correct suitcases are put onto the right airplane. And obviously, we looked at the contactless cards methods. So this can be incorporated into this method of payment to make quick payments just by tapping the card. The advantage is it can read objects from a distance, can read in bulk. It's very fast reading, so there's a quick response. You can read and write at the same time, so read and write operations take place, and can also read biometric readings. However, the disadvantage is the radio symbols can be jammed or hacked. It can be more expensive than a barcode, and the tags could interfere with each other. Another advantage is with a barcode, I think we'll come to barcode, the scanner has to be above the barcode. With this one, the tag just has to be in close proximity to the scanner for it to be scanned in. So here we have a question. So comparing RFID to barcodes. So a library is considering the way it issues books. The librarians are planning to use RFID rather than barcodes. Describe the advantage of using RFID rather than barcodes. So RFID are faster to read than the barcodes. Scanning is more accurate than barcodes, and it does not need to be in a line of sight. So with this, scanner here, this tag doesn't have to be directly in front. It just needs to be within a distance. Okay. Line of sight to read, but the barcodes does. RFID can scan multiple items at a time and can read from a distance. More data can be stored using RFID compared to a barcode. RFID tags are more robust. Barcodes will not scan if damaged. And then we have some more questions here. Tawara Hotel uses magnetic stripe cards to allow guests to access their bedrooms. The hotel is changing the electronic lock it uses on its bedroom door so the lock can work with RFID cards. Compare the use of magnetic strip cards and RFID cards for key entry. Your answer must include similarities and differences. So, what is the same? Both cards allow fast access to a room, data can be rewritten, and have improved security by using encryption. Both cards are read by a reader or scanner. However, both the cards are prone to damage. The RFID card is contactless, therefore has less wear and tear, whereas magnetic is placed in a reader. RFID reads data faster. Magnetic strip can be affected by magnets, mobile phones. RFID cards are more robust. RFID cards can read from a distance using a device. Okay, so let's look now at different types of or other types of direct data entry devices. So you may have seen these question papers before, or lottery tickets, where you've got A, B, C, D, and E. Once you've finished the question paper, this is then fed through an optical mark reader. So optical mark reader is able to read marks written in pen or pencil. The position of the mark is stored in a computer's memory. So what will happen is this paper will be scanned in, and automatically the results will be outputted. Okay, so the advantage of this is it'll scan in the position of each mark to see if you've got the question correct or incorrect. Okay, and then it'll store that data. So let's just focus on the advantages first. So it's a very fast method of inputting data as no user has to manually enter the results, more accurate than the optical character reader, which we'll come to, less chance of errors. However, forms have to be completed correctly to avoid manual checks, which would waste time. So if you've scribbled in something across the B and C, then the optical mark reader might have some difficulty reading which answer you've put in correctly, which answer you want to go with, either B or C. If it was a human checking out, maybe they could differentiate which one you've gone for. So optical character reader, OCR, scans text from hard copies and converts it into an editable format, which can be used and edited in a range of software, including word processor. So at airports, for example, you've got self-immigration systems. So you're scanning the details of your passport, and those details automatically go into the computer system. So your passport number, your name, your date of birth, your nationality, and all the rest of it. So there's no need to type anything. So again, that data is automatically going into the system. Also, you have things like this where students can scan text from books, and then that automatically can go into a format which can be edited rather than just being scanned as a normal picture. So again, faster method of data entry compared to manually typing. There's less chance of errors. So if you're not having to scan it in, you might have to type in the password details, which will obviously increase the queue times at the immigration desks. Disadvantage is not as accurate as an OMR reader. And sometimes if you're scanning in something that's written, it may not be able to read the handwriting. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, so barcode scanners. So these are used normally in shops to scan in items. The barcode has to be in front of the barcode scanner for it to be scanned in. If the barcode is damaged or something decreased or whatever, then you manually would have to type in this number here, which could take a longer time, more chance of human error. So barcode readers are used to scan barcodes that contain unique information about a product, including price. Barcode readers are typically used at point of sale in shops when customers are purchasing goods. It's quicker and more accurate than typing in codes using a keyboard. Stock databases can easily be updated with new prices. Barcodes would not need to be replaced. However, barcodes could be unreadable or missing. Barcodes could be swapped. and it can be an expensive system initially to set up. Okay. So let me just talk about this before we go forward. So when I used to work in shops, you'd get some people coming in and they'd take a barcode of a less expensive jacket and put that barcode onto the more expensive jacket. So the cashier, if they're not aware of the stock, they could easily be fooled into scanning in the barcode for the less value jacket and selling the jacket at a lesser price. So that potentially could happen. Now, quick response codes are used by scanning using a camera from a mobile device. The code is read and then decoded using an application. So more so like in recent times, especially during COVID, if you went to a restaurant, rather than receiving a menu, you can scan in the quick response code, okay, and then it will take you to a link to a web page where you can access the menu. Or maybe you come across a poster and you want to scan it in to get further details of the events, then that could be possible as well. So look at a menu, maybe to find a location, to look up further information. So the advantages of the quick response is the QR codes can store a good amount of information. It can still work if slightly damaged. However, you need a phone to read their code, may require internet access to look at further information. So here's some typical exam questions. When a ticket is produced for the new system, it contains a QR code. Here's an example of a QR code. Describe the benefits of using a quick response code. So the QR code is unique to the ticket. It can be linked to a website or to an email. The quick response code is more robust than barcodes. The QR code can be used for multiple elements. It is secure as the code can not be swapped. Okay guys, join me in the next video now. We're going to be looking at 2.3 output devices. Hopefully this is useful for you guys. Please drop your comments below, like and share, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.